Yeah, thank you. So hi everyone, welcome to our presentation today. We are Project 14, Dashboard for Public Investments. And in the past few months, we've been working closely with the Duke Management Company on an interactive dashboard that would help visualize data on their public investments. So first, a little bit about the Duke University Management Company, DUMAC. It was formed in 1989 as a separate nonprofit organization that manages investment assets on behalf of Duke University, also known as the Long-Term Pool. And some of its assets include most of the university's working capital, its defined benefit pension assets, also known as the Employees Retirement Plan, the university's health systems investments, as well as the Duke Endowment, which is a private charitable trust established by Duke University's founder, James B. Duke. And we've been working very closely with the public investment team at DUMAC. One of the main ways that DUMAC invests is through separate manager accounts. But because of DUMAC's scale, simply because of the amount of assets they have at hand to invest, they are put in an advantageous position to handpick investments that they want to invest in. So this provides them with expert insight from these separate manager accounts, as well as control over what they're investing in. DUMAC staff works with the assistance of about 250 investment advisory firms and partnerships. Now I'll pass it to Rafe to go into more details about our project.
So like Shishi mentioned, DUMAC operates on a very large scale, which means they have a lot of data that is coming in and going out on a daily basis. So essentially our project revolved around leveraging the data warehouse that DUMAC currently has to make two main dashboards, in the individual manager dashboard and the aggregate level dashboard. And we connected this to DUMAC's warehouse and used Tableau in order to create these two dashboards. In terms of what these dashboards are about, so they looked at positions, different position indicators. For the individual manager dashboard, we were looking at positioning for each account manager. And for the aggregate level dashboard, we were looking at positioning from a macro lens. So their parent account, their asset class, and their sub-asset class. And within both these dashboards, there were multiple dimensions that we were tackling, which included top long and short positions, top contributors and detractor based on profit and loss, exposures by market value and notional value basis. This was further subcategorized into region and country, industry and sector, and market capitalization. And finally, we were also looking at the net asset value changes key drivers for both these dashboards. Now, in order to go into more detail about the individual manager dashboard, I can hand it over to Khan.
Sure. Hi, Phyllis. So the individual manager dashboard, it focuses on the investments under one specific funds. And so basically, we have explored different exposures and positioning of one portfolio across various dimensions. And below this brief description, we have the screenshot of our individual manager dashboard. There are a lot of blanks and black boxes right there, because due to data confidentiality issues, we have removed the specific fund's name as well as any relevant specific security names. All right, so on the top left of our dashboard, where it is a blank space right now, originally we have the dynamic title showing the fund's name, which will change when we change the filter for the parent account and the holding name. Right below the dynamic title, we have the total net asset value for this fund, in which we have include all security types of the positions. Then we also have the percentage of the fund's total net asset value compared in the entire pool. We have 5 filters used in the dashboard through the first 2 filters, as you can see here, the parent account and the holding name. We can choose the parent account and a specific fund name within that parent account. Then we can choose the exposure type, which is displayed in all of the tables, including in all of those 2 tabs if we hover over oneself in all of those tables below. We can choose between the market value or the notional value, aka effective exposure, to be displayed in all of those tables below. Then we have the time frame selector, in which we can choose the start date and the end date. So the start date is used to extract a prior portfolio snapshot, while the end date is used to extract a more current portfolio snapshot that is compared with the prior portfolio snapshot at the end date. The end date also serves as a filter for the current date. So every table and chart in the dashboard is displaying portfolio information at the end date. So if we hover over one cell at either of those dashboard, either of those tables, we'll see that the tooltips contain relevant information such as the measures or long, short, gross on that, either dollar value or percentage values at the start date. So if we change the start date filters, those values in the tooltips, they will also change. So on the top of our dashboard, we have the top 10 long or short positions. So they are ranked by the percentage of effective exposure, which is notional value within the total market value of a portfolio. So long basically means the purchase of the security in expectation of the price increase, while the short position basically bet that the price will decrease in the future. Those graphs are useful because DMARC can check the heaviest positions in both long and short positions in each portfolio. If we hover over the tooltip, we'll be also able to see other relevant information such as the sector, the industry, the notional value, as well as the market value. Then we can go to the top 5 contributor and top 5 detractors. So those charts, bar charts, they are ranked by the profit or loss at the end date. And again, if we hover over the tooltip, we can once again see those relevant informations where, like, due to data confidentiality issue and the non-disclosure agreement that we signed, we just cannot directly show you the dashboard. And so we can just simply show you the screenshot of our dashboard with a lot of information blurred. Right. As for the region and country exposure, feel free to take over from here.
So after the top 5 contributors, we have these exposure tables. So we start off with region and country, and then move on to sector, industry, and market capitalization. And a common theme you'll see across all of these is the columns we have. So we have essentially 8 main columns, which deal with four main positionings, which is the long, short, gross, and net positions. For the first 4 columns, we just have the dollar value of each of these positions. And the next 4 columns are essentially a proportionate value, which is calculated using the dollar amount of each position divided by the total market value, which then gives us the percentage of that particular position as a proportion of the entire account's holdings. And in terms of the first table, if we look at the region and country exposure, we divide it into a 3-level table, which we can drill down using a button we have on top of market region. And the reason we chose to have a hierarchy for this is because a lot of the manager accounts have investments concentrated in a particular region or in the United States, for example. In which case, it did not make much sense to have in each row for a different country, since most of the investments would be in United States. Therefore, even if you have an account such as the one we have right now on and the screenshot, which is a global investor, we can see all the different regions that they've invested in. But if it's an account that is only investing primarily in the United States, then you can have a simpler version of the table. And similarly, if we move down to sector industry, you can see the same position, the same columns that we've had. And here again, we've divided into a hierarchy that starts up with the sector, and then for further detail moves into the industry group. And for this, we are using the Thomson Reuters business classification. And similarly, if you move down to market capitalization, we can see that we've divided it into large cap, mid cap, and small cap. And that classification, again, is used by the standards that DMARC uses to classify different capitalizations. And across all these tables, you can see that on the final row, we have the grand total that just gives you the sum of each column. And finally, we have the security type exposures. And this is slightly different because we had to include the foreign exchange and cash positions from these, because since those skewed what we wanted to see in this table, but again, the same metrics or the same columns are consistent in this exposure too. And now Fan can talk a bit more about the NAV increases in securities?
And just to complement a little bit of things for the sector as well as the industry exposure, DUMAC has like combined both the Thomson Reuters business classification method as well as the global industry classification standards to create their own version of those classification standards over the sector and industry, right? Then if we look at the bottom of our dashboard, in which we have the top 5 NAV increase and decrease in the securities. So those are basically ranked by the dollar change of the net asset value. We have also included other information such as the market value percentage change, the quantity change, as well as the price percentage change to help the investment professionals at DUMAC to better attribute the cost of the change of the market value to either the quantity change or the price percentage change of the security. So for instance, we can just take the first row on the left table for a quick instance. So the total market value percent change is about like 25%. And it can be break down into whether the quantity change, which is the active management by this portfolio manager, or the price change, which is just the fluctuation of the price of the security itself. And this will be super helpful for the investment professionals at DUMAC to check whether their portfolio manager is doing something or it's just like the market fluctuation in the price. Then we can go to the aggregated level dashboard. Again, we have blurred out a lot of those sensitive informations to keep our data confidential. And those are not the entire dashboards for the aggregated level dashboard. Those are just fraction of the aggregated level dashboard that are different from the individual level dashboard. So for instance, if you have a look at the top, then we have this, again, dynamic title corresponds to the different pool that DUMAC holds, as well as the different asset class and sub-asset class. Those correspond to the 3 filters on the top right corner of our aggregated level dashboard. Again, we also have the start date, end date, the time frame selector. Then again, we have the exposure type that users can switch between the notional value as well as the market value. So for the top NAV increase and decrease in both the sector and the country, Shishi, do you want to go from here?
Yeah, thank you, Fan. So the main thing that's different on our aggregated level dashboard is we added these 4 sheets on the top 5 NAV, net asset value, increase and decrease within a sector and country. This looks at what have been the key drivers of a change in net asset value within a certain sector or within a country. And again, these black boxes are the blurred out security names. And the reason why we added these for the aggregated level dashboard is because we think there is a significant number of investments within a certain sector or within a certain country under this parent manager account. So we would see a considerable change in net asset value over a period of time that they toggle using the start and end date filters. Whereas for our individual manager dashboard, because there simply are not that many investments, we wouldn't see that much of a difference. So we didn't add a sheet on just looking at the change within a sector or country. And so looking more closely, we used market value dollar change and percentage change as our measurement. So this would give us an overall view of how the investments within this sector or country is doing over this period of time. However, we are not able to see whether this change in net asset value is because of a change in price of securities in the market. We don't have the price change measurement, or it's because of active investing or active management on the parent account's part. And the reason we took out price is because there are so many investments within a sector or a country under this parent account, and price fluctuates so much, we think it would cancel each other out and wouldn't give us as accurate or comprehensive a view. So we just stuck with market value for these few graphs. Yeah, and that's all we have for our dashboards. But Fan, if you would like to end us off.
Yeah. So for the next step, we'll be providing the finished dashboard to the public investment team at DUMAC to enable comprehensive analysis of asset and management, like manager's portfolio. And then we have also about to finish the field dictionary for the entire individual manager dashboard as well as the aggregate level dashboard, so that the public investment team at DUMAC in the future, they can simply go to the field dictionary and check the functionality and the formula of each new calculated field that we've been creating throughout our project. So in the end, we like to thank our project manager, Anna Corral. She's also here today for her professional guidance and support throughout our project. We really appreciate her time and patience in providing us with detailed feedbacks and her valuable financial insights. And we also like to thank our Data Plus team manager, Christopher Reeder, for his administrative support. Thank you very much. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks a lot, all. That was really nice. One of like the things that immediately jumped out to me is I assume that like a lot of these tables have come from like a lot of collaboration with Anna and the people at DUMAC. And one of the things that that I was curious about is there's a lot of comparison, and there's a lot of there's a lot of comparison, but there's not a lot of time dynamics. And I was wondering if there was any discussion about time dynamics, like, you know, how things have been performing in the past and things like that versus how they're performing now, whether there was a discussion about that.
Professor Hirschlag, are you referring to maybe line charts, like those in the financial markets, like the stock market, those candle plots you're referring to, like how things fluctuate within a time frame? Is that the thing you're talking about?
Right, because you had this, like, you have this gross, you know, you have the amount that you've invested in here, and then you have this gross. So you know, how your own investments have changed over time, and then also how the values and the returns on those investments have changed over time.
So basically, as for returns, we have something similar to that, which is the NAV change, the net asset value change. However, for the other tables and charts, we're only like focusing on the portfolio snapshots at the end date and portfolio snapshot at the start date. So for instance, every single figures. Oh, okay, cool. Thanks. Like those.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I was understanding you, but yeah, I sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off or anything.
Thanks. Yeah, cool. So we're mainly focused on the end points of this entire time frame. So all of those values, the figures shown directly, those are the values about this portfolio at the end date, which is one of our filters. And if we hover over one of those two tips, then those values are from the start date, so that the investment professionals at DUMAC can better like compare those values from the start date and from the end date.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, one of the main purposes of our dashboard is so that the DUMAC team, the public investment team, which is also the team we showed our dashboard to, and they gave us a really good feedback, is so that they could look at the data on these public investments and be able to see how their manager accounts are doing. So for example, the aggregated level dashboard, we have these NAV changes within a sector or country. Now they can verify what their parent accounts are telling them. So for instance, if the account manager is saying, oh, we're doing really well in the IT sector, but now they can see, is the market NAV change actually increasing? Is the percentage value increasing? And be able to see whether what the parent accounts are doing on data is the same as what they are saying and reporting to DUMAC. So we see these changes in values, but this is more for like DUMAC internally to verify what's going on with their management.
Yeah, no, and thanks a lot. That was exactly the heart of my question is, you know, like what are the goals of this essentially? And in looking at the design choice, it just made me wonder that. Yeah, so thanks a lot.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions about for this team?
Thanks Rafael, Fan, and Xixi for your awesome presentation. This dashboard looks awesome. So one question I have is about like the backend side. So let's say tomorrow's stock price change, like the DUMAC holding change. Do you have like an automatic update, or like you need to manually input data again, or like this? So just how does your dashboard update with the future changes?
So at the data level, by the way, this is a really good question. At the data level, our project manager, Anna, has already provided with a live connection with the DUMAC's data warehouse, which means it's gonna automatically update the data there every night. However, because of the structure of the Tableau, we're not able to automatically see those updates every morning. So we need to open up this dashboard every morning, then click on the date filter to select the latest date. So for now, maybe in the future, the public investment team at DOMAC, they are trying to incorporate this feature, but for now, unfortunately, because of the difficulty of the Tableau itself, we're not able to achieve this functionality for now. But on the data side wise, it is feasible. Great question. Thanks.
I was wondering if you all could talk about your journey and process through the design process, your collaboration with DOMAC, and sort of the challenges and journey you took towards making the decisions you ended up doing.
So this is the 8th version, like not the 8th version, but this is the version 8.1, which served as the final version. Previously, we have tried a lot of different layouts. We have tried different size of the tables, but we have discussed a lot with our project manager with the DOMAC side. And then at the end, we settled down on our current size and the layout of our dashboards. And we did learn a lot from the DOMAC side, especially from our project manager, Anna.
Let me just chime in on that question, Gregory and team. Thank you so much. Like, we are just over the moon in terms of working with you and the high caliber of work that you produce. And, we already started using this. But on your question, Gregory, I laid out requirements for what we wanted to see, basically what they have on the bottom left, like these dimensions. And, the students have mastered certain concepts that have taken me years to understand, and they were able to lay them out, with some guidance, but I'd say they were able to lay them out in such a way that, if they so choose to be, they would be great investors because they know exactly what we need to look at, how we want to look at it. And you had asked about the main purpose of this dashboard, and we have around 60 manager accounts on the public liquid side. That's the focus of this project. And we have periodic updates with these managers. We have a very tight schedule of just call after call after call and monitoring these portfolios. And we have a lot of different enterprise reports, but this is the most dynamic and comprehensive report we have to date that leverages all this daily data that we have because we own the separately managed account. And it's hard to appreciate from this poster, and I'm sorry we can't show the live version because of confidentiality reasons, but the tooltips that they created as you hover over certain values, they're so helpful. You see the start period comparison, which really lets you think about, okay, I know tech has been like selling off, for example. Let me see how this manager's positioning changed between 3 months ago and now. And they have other key values like, okay, is it a long or a short? What's the notional versus the market? It's so many things that is always in our head as questions, but now we actually have a means to come to a single place and, answer a lot of those things. So, not just our public team, but our CIO, Neil Triplett, and other groups at DOMAC like risk management, they're already using this tool and it's very powerful for us. So thank you, team.
Thank you, Anna.
Thanks a lot, Anna. Other questions for this group? I have maybe one more, but I don't want to dominate.
Well, maybe I want to ask a really technical question about the form on the middle column, like individual manager dashboard. I saw that the grand total of the net percentage is always 17.5%. I wonder what that 17.5% means. Like, is that like the manager has 70.5%? Like 17.5% of the total asset, or like it's just security occupies like total values of 17.5%?
I can start off with that. So the long and short positions, you can see in the table. So the long positions are given with the positive value and the short positions are given the negative value. So the net position is essentially the sum of long and short positions. So the net percentage value represents what is sort of the division between long positions and short positions.
This represents your net exposure to the market. So the reason why the long and short positions, if you look at them in an absolute value sense, they exceed 100% because there's leverage employed. Not every manager will have leverage though. So, our manager is net long, you would say, 17.5% net long. So let's say when you're comparing this to passive exposure to an index, this is a highly tech-focused manager. Let's just take the NASDAQ. You would expect this manager to have a fraction of the risk, so the volatility and the return that you would get from just investing passively in the NASDAQ, right? That's a very simple way of thinking about it. It's not exact. There's also beta, which is a much better way to measure risk, but I hope that helps give you a flavor of, what that 17.5% means for this manager and why it matters to us.
Yeah, thank you.